hungry. Do something for the poor. Open up the door. Tell them mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry, sister hungry. Do something for the poor. Open up the door. They want your name.
The culture of poverty. Are the Belizean citizens responsible for their own poverty? It is a truly interesting question. As we hear the word poverty, our minds quickly cipher to people who are less fortunate, who cannot afford or provide basic necessities or probably have nowhere to sleep, which are all true. But we are not focusing on that standpoint of poverty, but rather from a cultural basis. The way people think and act that together form their way of life, their values and norms that are influenced by society which guides the behavior of its members. These are some interviews that help us to not just limit our perspective to simply just poor people when we hear the word poverty, but rather looking at poverty from a sociological perspective and a cultural point of view.
Good morning, Miss Castillo.
Morning.
Miss Castillo, can you provide me with the location that you reside in?
So you know, I live in Majestically.
Okay, thank you. Miss Castillo, what is your educational background?
I don't got no education. I dropped out of school in a third form because I'm not pregnant.
Oh, with this bundle of joy?
Mm-hmm.
So is she the only daughter you have?
Yes.
Are you currently living alone?
Yes.
So you're a single parent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you get finance from her father?
She not got that.
Okay. So, do you work, Mom?
Yes.
What is your job?
I'm a sanitation worker.
You work in the sanitation department?
Yes.
And how is the pay there?
Well, you have to make the best of it, you know, because go like that sort of thing.
Okay then, Mom. So, how does she goes to school? Do you pay or do you get assistance
I get assistance.
from your area rep?
You want less?
So, who do you get assistance from?
I got family who help me out.
Okay, so family. So, you bank on family.
Mm-hmm.
So, would you say that you could provide for her?
With the help of my job and my family, yes.
Okay, so can you describe what you see, what you say every day around this alley, around Majestic Alley?
Well, to be honest, the boy they out here, not cut it, like got gang problems or anything like that.
Okay.
Area not a good area, but I'm not got no ways to go, so I have to put up with it in life.
Okay, so would you say that you are living in poverty? Would you say that? Would you, if someone come up and ask you, would you say something like that?
I guess I would have said I live in a poverty. Like I wouldn't like to admit it, but that is fact.
So it's fact. So you know.
Ma, I'm hungry.
Try go eat a pop bread, man.
Okay, I see that you are busy with your child. So I would like to thank you for this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Mom.
Good morning, ma'am. Kindly provide us with a brief description on the area you reside in, please.
Currently, I live in the South Side area, particularly Salt Creek.
How many people live in your home?
At the moment, I only have my daughter and myself.
Is your daughter attending school? Are you working?
She's under 3 years old, so she's not attending school as yet. And yes, I am working. I am a teacher at one of the Anglican schools.
Is your job part-time or full-time?
I have a full-time job and I am attending University of Belize part-time.
What is a normal day like for you?
A normal day like for me is very busy because because being a teacher, I still have to prepare my materials for work for the Monday, and I still have to be with my daughter as well. So it is a bit busy and not relaxing. I want to get to relax during holidays like Christmas and summer and Easter, but besides that, I can say busy.
Do you get any assistance from the area representative, be it pantry program, educational, housing, monetary, things like that?
I get assistance from the pantry, but I don't really use it like that. Besides that, I would ask the government for a tuition like semesters, like one in, one out, not every semester, because I am so independent. I try to pay my bills on my own.
Thank you.
I'm conducting this interview for my University of Belize sociology class. The topic is based on poverty in Belize and if the government is responsible for it. So my first question to you is, what does poverty means to you?
Poverty means that you can provide the basic necessities for living as a person.
Okay. Would you consider poverty a choice? If so, why?
No, I don't believe that poverty is a choice, to say that somebody is born and they're given choices and say, do you want to be rich or do you want to be poor? And some people decide that they prefer not to be able to pay for their basic necessities of life. I believe everybody wants to be able to do that. And I think maybe what you are suggesting by that question is some who would say, well, if you make the right choices in life, you won't be poor. And that is not true. There is, to some extent, to which self-determination, ambition, drive, better choices can have an impact on the quality of life you live. But you cannot take away the context in which somebody is going to try to achieve these things and the external factors that are going to have an impact on it.
Do you think that poor people are lazy?
If I think they are lazy? No, I don't think poor people are lazy. I know rich lazy people. I know middle class lazy people. I know lazy people of all different backgrounds. I don't think that indeed, just like any group of human beings, I am sure there are those who have not been able to get the kind of work ethic that you would want them to have. But again, I do not believe that you can just determine that as people who are unable to meet their basic needs, that it has to do with the fact that they have no work ethic.
What kind of problem or problems do you think poor people have?
Well, I would say the high priority ones. Definitely, if you don't have the means to provide for yourself, then it makes you extremely vulnerable in so many different ways. You have issues like there's ample data to show that the health issues faced by the poor are far greater than those experienced by those who have better means, better income. The types of foods that they're able to afford and what it is they have to get by on, the nutritional standards that they are able to give to oneself is one of those factors that's going to really and truly reduce quality of life, make them more vulnerable physically. Again, I think when you're faced with just the average flood, tropical depression, I think we had a couple of years ago, really unmasked how thin the line is between absolute sufferation for people who are living in conditions which are below those fit for human beings in some instances, but they need to have a shelter. Very small weather system is able to impact on them in a very, very negative way. So these are some of the everyday examples you'll find of how being poor really puts you behind the 8 ball, just every single day that you live.
Would you consider poverty a social issue in our country?
If I consider it a social issue, meaning like if it's something significant, I mean, yeah, obviously the data indicates that we have people below the poverty line, some 40% and indigent poor being at least 30% of that. So that is like completely unacceptable for us to have a country that is blessed with the resources that we are blessed with. And then we have a relatively small population, and yet of that small population we have so many people who are unable to carve out an economic reality that is a basic standard of comfort. I think that's a huge problem.
What do you think should be the role of the government in alleviating poverty?
Well, they are tasked with the management of our resources, and they are tasked with making decisions that are going to tackle the huge challenges that a society faces. So obviously, poverty being one of the chief challenges we have, it's like right up there with securing our territory, ensuring law and order. Next thing is to ensure that we have an economy and we have a system, the kind of social infrastructure that lifts people out of poverty. So it's a high priority issue for any government to tackle.
Have the Belizean citizens, in your opinion, draw dependent on the financial assistance from the government?
I think all human beings are designed in such a way that if it is that you create a system where you are given handouts over a period of time, it can have a corrosive effect on your own personal determination. That's just a natural thing. But that is not in any way to say that we don't have a society where people genuinely do need handouts, do need to have the safety net to ensure that basic needs are met. What we need to do, obviously, is to create the kind of society where more people are able to see opportunities, more people are equipped to take advantage of opportunities so that they can be in charge of self. Because ultimately, yes, you can become dependent, but I don't find a single human being that wouldn't prefer to be completely in charge of self and making things happen for self. I think that is our natural preferred condition. But dependency can happen. That's a kind of a flaw we fall into it if it's something that we don't monitor and really be watchful for. But I don't believe it can be used as an argument to say, well, it's because of the handouts we become dependent. I think that the social net has to be structured in such a way, incentivized in a certain way, so that people feel a bit of what I'd call that they have a personal stake in it. So if you're going to be a beneficiary of certain handouts, or like I know we have the pantry program, then put that along with certain expectations on the person who is there, like, okay, we are going to have you here, but you will have to go and take evening classes, so that you wire in the way that you are there for that rainy day, or there because somebody needs to lift up. Don't completely take away that person's responsibility to also be a part of the lifting. I think it's the way you design it, because it absolutely can be corrosive. but it's necessary too. So you cannot just say, well, we need to stop the way how we giving out and helping out. No, I think the way the system is presently designed, a lot of the handouts are wired in such a way that it's to create political patrimony, to create political loyalty. And for me, that's a very flawed process. I think that really takes away the dignity from the assistance that you provide when you basically say, well, you will get this and you will get this help with the school fee and you will get this help with the hospital bill, but I will own you politically for it. I think that is a system that is very flawed.
Okay. Earlier you mentioned that our country is rich with resources. The population is small, but the poverty rate is like 30 to 40%. Do you think that the poverty rate in Belize will continue to exist?
Poverty is very malignant and very chronic, and it's like dandruff. It's something that is hard to get away from, and it requires systemic, sustained changes to at the very least start to reduce it in a very meaningful way. So do I look around in the country and do I see where there are things being done to turn around the battle on poverty? And remember that poverty is a global battle, but there are things we can do in-house that can make a significant difference. And those things I am not observing. And so I don't have, based on available evidence, any great optimism that next year you will find out that there are 10% less people in poverty. I can't speak to that level of optimism. I wish I could.
My last question. Would you rather give someone a fish or would you teach them to fish?
Obviously, if that person has not eaten for a week, I would rather give them a fish. And I give them another fish till they're strong enough. Then we can talk about what it is they can do so that they can not find themselves back in that same position where they need that act of selflessness and empathy so that they can just have one meal. But if they're in a level of desperation, this is no time to teach. This is a time to give that person some food and make it firm up, leave it, and so you could see if you could start to paddle your own canoe at some point in time. So I think that is my view on it. The questions you ask are questions that societies ask and are polarizing questions. It is probably the classic case of do you believe in, well, we are fittest of the fit? Do we believe that government should not be concerned about the welfare of human beings? It's a difference between conservatism and a more progressive approach to societies, whether you are more socialist in thinking or you believe in just allowing the individual to determine what will become of them. I think the problem with that is that where societies are presently, where poverty in societies presently stand, it is not the byproduct of just individual choice or individual capacity. There are long historical reasons that have shaped poverty in nations. Geopolitical currents have shaped poverty and the impact of poverty on nations. I'll give you an example of that. Take, for example, if you have done anything in economics, you understand that land is one of the basic factors of production and building block of wealth. And we think about how land has been distributed in Belize, say, for 200 years. And when you walk back, you realize that certain portions of the population have been historically handicapped and oppressed with the way that land has been distributed. So we had the land, we started with the land, but all of us, we were not equal. There were those who could own it and those who could not. If you are a descendant of those people who could not own it, you started life with a disadvantage. You understand? So these are the historical reasons how certain populations end up looking like they're not going anywhere, and then we start to judge and we say they don't want anything. But that is a superficial analysis of the situation. They appear that way because the analysis has not been deep enough, and hence the solutions have not been deep enough, so that we can start to get those populations moving in the right direction. So that is the problem we have, and that's very often you find out that people will say, well, they make bad choices. Well, again, they did a study to find the impact of poverty on cognitive functioning. And I don't believe they needed to do the research to find this out. To me, it always seemed like common sense. But the way of science is you need to prove it. And they actually proved. If you have people under financial strain and you put them to take an exam, or put them to take what they call, they have these tests that they make you make choices to see if you are making the right one. Like, for example, if you have $50 and the taxi is there for $30, or the bus is there for $2, and they find when they do these examinations and you have people who are under financial pressure, they perform much less than the ones who are financially comfortable. They will put that your decision making and your choice making when you are under financial pressure is greatly reduced. So somebody would look and say, why would somebody who is only making $200 a week go and buy a concert ticket for $70? They want to be poor. That's what you say. They want to be poor. They don't understand that it all bears on that individual and the way they go about making choices. For somebody who lives a certain way, the ability to feel good for a couple of hours seems like the right choice, because to have that good feeling requires so much more and so much greater uncertainty. If I spend the $70 on this ticket, I am guaranteed with a couple drinks, I will feel good tonight. I put it in some institution and put it up, and I don't know where I'm going. I don't know how long I will be employed. I might never have a feel-good moment. And so you will look at it and say, but logically put it in the credit union, man. That's what you need to do. But the impact of not having your basic needs being met, it has an impact on the quality of your choices. Now, that is not to take away from the fact that we must always be examining ourselves, especially when it is, you know, that there are certain things that have already left you, you would say, like, you are like the person that you can't even start the race until everybody is down the road. It's kind of like, that's, for some people, that's what they were born into. You are absolutely in a position where you have no margin of error. You have no margin of error at all. So we cannot not inform people that they don't have the margin of error, and always be examining the choices we are making and make better choices. Obviously we do. But at the same time, we cannot analyze the situation and make it be a judgment about character, not understanding all the factors that have basically carved our society the way it is. So I think it's important to put that in the presentation that you're making.
Good morning, my name is Kia Smith and I will be speaking on the facts of poverty for my group's presentation, which topic is poverty. Culture is the way people think and act, which frames a person's way of life. Poverty is the state of being inferior in quality or insufficient in amount. Together, they can be conceptualized to give a greater understanding about the way people or Belizeans think and act through their values and norms in accordance to poverty. Furthermore, poverty is the state of being poor, not having enough money to meet one's basic need, including food, clothing, and shelter. However, poverty is more than just not having enough money. There are different factors that is associated with poverty: lack of education, divorce rate, overpopulation, epidemic diseases such as AIDS and malaria. According to the statistics from Professor Compton Bowler, PhD, the president of the Caribbean Development Bank, Belize is the second country in line with a poverty rate at 30% to 70% of the population. Functionalism say that people are responsible for their poverty. They could get out of poverty by working so hard to be able to put a shelter over their head, to send their children to school in order for them to achieve greater.
Look at that hungry child, yeah. Do you see anything to smile about? Look at the schools where the youth them go forget them education. Do you see anything to smile about? Look at the conditions of our police stations. Do you see anything to smile about? No. Same time the brother say, how can the nation be living this way? And the next thing him say,